Hello and welcome everyone to the College Tracker Show. I'm Victoria Allen, your host for today, and we have Colorado College with us. So we have Megan and Sabrina, so they are ready to provide a presentation and answer your questions. So remember to write your questions that you have in the chat. Welcome those that are coming to the Zoom room. You can write those in the chat or the Q&A box. And those watching via live stream, write it in the comment section and we will make sure to ask our special guest. So we'll start off with some introductions first. So Megan, tell us about yourself.
Thanks so much, Victoria. It's great to be with you all today. My name's Megan, and I've been working at Colorado College since 2014, and I work with international students. So it's a pleasure to see you all today via the virtual world. And I do travel to Canada and Asia, and I've traveled to Latin America and the Middle East. So it's wonderful to meet with students in all the different places that we have in this wonderful wild world of ours. And I'm just delighted to be a resource for you all today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sabrina.
Hi, thank you guys again for this opportunity. I'm super excited to be able to share my experience and how I came to choosing Colorado College and just how being a student athlete at Colorado College has been. A little bit about me, like I am a rising junior, so I'm about to go into my junior year. And I am on the swim team at Colorado College, have been for the past 2 years, and will be for the next 2 years as well. So I'm really excited for that. And yeah, just overall excited to get to share my experience and answer any questions that anyone has. So.
Awesome. Thank you both for joining us today. So we're going to kick off with Megan, who's going to give us an overview and some information, and then we'll have an interview with Sabrina, and we will come back to the admissions to wrap. So over to you, Megan. You're muted.
You would think I would be better about that by now. Thank you again. So this is what we have on deck to talk about today. So I think what's really distinctive about Colorado College is our location and our block plan. And we're going to talk a little bit about both. So you get a good idea of who we are and what makes us very distinctive in the landscape of colleges and universities. We have a lot of wonderful things going for us. And I think being located in Colorado is one of our really great claims to fame, if you will. So Colorado Springs specifically is the second largest city in Colorado, and it's the largest American city to border national forest land. So if you're a person who loves the natural world, but also loves the urban world, we are a great fit for you. So you can see on the screen right now some pictures of our downtown location, which is about a 10-minute walk from campus. So it's really convenient. And then we also have in the bottom corner of your screen, you can see these beautiful mountains. We're home to 54 14ers, and 14ers is local speak for mountains over 14,000 feet. I'm trying to think about what that is in metric calculations right now. Doing some quick math, I'll have to put a pin in that. But we are really fortunate because this mountain is named Pikes Peak, or Tava Mountain is its indigenous name, which is for Sun Mountain. And this literally surrounds our campus. So you can see in the other picture in the corner of the screen, just that amazing proximity of our campus and the mountains. It's really incredible. And so if you're an athlete, like many of you, I believe, are very interested in the athletic experience, we'll have much more time to talk about that in a second. This is a really exciting place to be based because we're at elevation. So we're actually home to the US Olympic Training Center. So because we're 6,035 feet above sea level, we have US and Olympians from all over that come to train here in the mountains. So we are a mountain city, and there's a lot of great perks that come to living at this level. So one thing I noticed is that I was able to take 15 minutes off my marathon time just from like living here, just like passively living here. So I think Sabrina could talk more about that for sure. But it's a really neat place to be based. We are also able to have access to over 300 miles of hiking and cycling trails, while also being able to walk downtown and get coffee shops, museums, restaurants, parks. So it's this really nice juxtaposition of both of these worlds, which is really nice. We have 2 satellite campuses in addition to our main downtown campus. So we'll talk a little bit more about how we are able to use those in a few minutes. But this is the CC cabin, which is about a half an hour away, well, 45 minutes, maybe even longer now. Sabrina, got to keep me honest, in Divide, Colorado. And the Baca campus is about 3.5 hours away in Crestone, Colorado. And so we're able to take classes, club retreats, office retreats. These are beautiful locations that are open to the entire college community, and we can all take advantage of that just based on the calendar and sign up, and lodging's available. They have a lot of beautiful, beautiful landscapes that we'll talk about in a little bit and how that fits in with the class experience at CC. Colorado College is a small private liberal arts college. So for those of you who are familiar with the liberal arts, what's really fantastic about that is there's over 80 majors and minors to choose from. And you're really encouraged to have a very interdisciplinary approach to your learning. So what's neat about that is we're able to have such a wide swath of academic options while also being a very small school. So for students that really feel comfortable in classes that are small sizes, where they can feel comfortable talking in class discussions and project-based learning, this is a really good fit for you. Liberal arts are really known for those small size class sizes and really direct, close relationships with faculty. So even though we do have all the benefits of that small class size, we're able to attract a very diverse student body. So we have students from all kinds of different backgrounds and identify from all kinds of different areas. And 10%, for example, identify as the first in their families to go to college. And then we have about 28% that identify as students of color. We have 7% that are international, and that percentage goes up when we consider dual citizens, but this is just strictly international. And then 56% identify as female. And you can see people from all over the country as well. So it's kind of neat. When I thought of Colorado College, I thought that just meant it was a lot of people from Colorado, but it's really people from a lot of different places. So a little bit more about what we were just discussing in terms of that average class size. There's 10 students to every professor at CC. And what makes that even more special is we are on the one class at a time system, known as the block plan. So because we're studying one class at a time, that means your professor is also only teaching one class at a time. So your professor is only teaching the class that you are in, which means they are 100% dialed into you and your class. They don't have to worry about other classes or students either. So it makes a close relationship with your professor that much closer on the block plan. And I think furthermore, because we do not have any teaching assistants, there's no in-between person in that relationship. And we have such a high number of our faculty that have been educated to their terminal degree, meaning they could not be more educated in their fields. So it's a really fantastic strength of the faculty and the relationship with the students here. And then finally, we have a 97% retention rate. I think that's very important to talk about because the block plan is very different, and it is understandable for people to wonder, is it too different? Like, how is that adjustment? But it's resoundingly been successful over the years, and students are really connecting with that. And of course, Sabrina's the best resource. She'll talk about that in just a little bit. So just to give you a little bit more of a backdrop before we talk about the block plan, as I mentioned before, have 80 majors and minors that you can choose from here. So you don't actually have to declare your major before you come to CC. I know there are some larger universities that you do need to do that, but you don't have to do that. And that's the beauty of the liberal arts and sciences is we believe that you come to the college to explore and experience everything, and then you get to decide. So underneath this middle box here, we've highlighted a few of our most popular majors along with some of our most distinctive programs. And if you hop online to Colorado College majors, if you just Google that, each of these programs, every one of the 80 major and minors is going to pop up with a corresponding website. So it's a great resource for you to learn more about your specific interests. Definitely encourage you to do that. And then you'll see we do have some general requirements. We are really careful to make sure that these are timely and topical and serving students in the times that we are living in. So the college is often reviewing them to make sure of that. So it's nice to know that no matter what your major or minor ends up being, that you're going to have fluency across critical areas to be a successful human in the world, no matter what your path, your academic focus ends up being. CC 100 and CC 120 are the first two classes that you take at CC, and they're designed to help you transition not only from high school to college, but to a college that's on the block plan. So there's a lot of structured support in that journey. So I think it's nice to know if you're nervous about going to college, it's really designed to give students that support when you really need it the most. And then finally, the pre-professional programs on this screen, liberal arts and sciences, it's great because you can major in anything you want and participate in these programs. So they're open to anybody, regardless of what your academic focus is. And then you get to have partnership with the Career Center and other academic and advising bodies on campus to ensure that you have the preparation you need for your post-CC life as well. So I've been hinting at this quite a bit, so we can actually start talking about it, the block plan. So one class at a time, pretty wild stuff, right? We've been doing the block plan for 50 years. So our faculty actually initiated this style of learning, knowing that, as many of you probably know, juggling multiple subjects, multiple deadlines, multiple assignments is taxing. It's very stressful, and you may only get a surface level of understanding to what you're learning and experiencing because you're always just trying to balance everything at once, right? So the idea here is, what if you're able to plunge into one subject and focus on that for 3.5 weeks and really truly experience what you're learning? It's like our former president said, like, when you're studying biology, you become a biologist. When you're taking art for your block, you become an artist. You're truly immersed in it. So it's a really neat style of learning, and it's not for everybody, but it is for people who are really hands-on learners who get really passionate and revved up for what they're learning. So a little bit about the calendar. Now that we've kind of given you the sort of imperative around it, how does this work? So when I first learned about the block plan, I was like, I'm sold. I love it. One class at a time. Fantastic. But like, how long are you in school for? Like, is this like a 10-year thing? Like, how does this work? So you actually are able to do 4 years on the block plan. You're going to graduate in the same amount of time, taking the same amount of credit as you would at a more traditional academic system. That's because we're actually taking 8 classes each year. The first 4 classes constitute your fall semester. Your last 4 classes constitute your spring semester. And your academic year is actually going to start and end the same time as the standard academic calendar. So starting in the end of August, ending in mid-May, having that month-long winter break in between the fall and spring semesters, having a fall break, having a spring break, everything's really standardized there. So that's really interesting. I think knowing also that one class is also the equivalent of 4 credit hours or 4 semester hours is also standardized, and 32 classes to graduate because you're taking 8 classes a year. 8 classes a year, 4 years is 32 units. So that's also really standard throughout the US higher education landscape. So neat, right? That's kind of a neat thing. In terms of what the day-to-day looks like, you're in class Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until noon for the 3.5-week course period. There is some fluidity in terms of the classes that travel off campus, which we'll talk about in a moment, but most classes that are on campus will start around 9 and around 12. So it's a 3-hour class each day for the 3.5 weeks. So if you're a visual person, Monday through Friday is the first week, Monday through Friday is the second week, Monday through Friday is the third week, and then that fourth week at noon, that's when your class concludes. So at that point, you'll have a final project, a final exam, or a final paper, depending on the class. What's neat is because you're taking one class at a time, that means you're taking one final at a time, right? So you'll never have to do finals, plural. You'll never have to do midterms, plural, one class at a time, one midterm, one project, depending on the class. You have that culmination of your class, and then you have what's called the block break. So block break means just what it sounds like. It's a 4.5-day break in between each class. So Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is yours, whatever you need to rest, reset, recharge. And then you come back that Monday and start your next class. 3.5-week class concludes. Then you jump into another 4.5-day break, and then you take your next class. So I think what's really fantastic about that in this day and age is that being able to have such an immersive class experience, but also being able to have such a steady break experience is really, really important and very much cherished by our students. And I'm sure Sabrina can talk about that. But we have so many opportunities kind of tying back to our location to travel, to experience the Southwestern region and the United States. There are some sponsored trips by the college as well, so you can also get involved with our local community. And there's a lot of opportunities to just like sleep too, right? So like if you just need to like take 5 and just like, great, like I just took organic chemistry, I will see everybody on Monday. This has been great. And just like do the Netflix thing and do your laundry. That is always available and always really popular. So there's a lot that you can do here. But I think what's nice to know is that with having a block break after each class, you have a lot of opportunities to mix and match throughout your year. So that's a nice part about it too. So I'm going to, before I wrap this up and hand it over to Sabrina, I wanted to end talking about the field study experience with the block plan, because that's really a hallmark of how the block plan works. So because we're only taking one class at a time, the idea with field study is that you can travel with your professor to where your professor thinks it's most exciting and engaging for you to learn the material. So that means a lot of different things depending on what class you're taking. This actually ties back to the Baca campus slide, this slide, the terrestrial ecosystem ecology class, because they actually are located near the Great Sand Dunes National Park, which are some of the largest sand dunes in North America. So they're able to take their class there and learn about biosphere and atmosphere interactions. So I think what's neat about this, of course, tying it back to the student athlete experience, which Sabrina will talk about, is that you will know whether your classes are traveling or not before you sign up for your classes. So some classes have like a couple of days they're going to travel, some travel for the full 3.5 weeks, and some don't travel at all. So if you're in season, of course you can pick your classes accordingly, right? So you have all that information when you sign up for your classes in the beginning of the fall semester and the beginning of the spring semester. Many of our students also go abroad as well. So that kind of works really nicely because with the block plan, if you really want to go abroad, but again, you're an athlete, you might not have enough time, blocks abroad is a really great way to achieve that because it's a 3.5 week block. So if you go abroad for 3.5 weeks, it kind of makes international exchanges and education a little bit more accessible for students that might have to balance their athletic experience as well. So lots of opportunities to engage in international study as well. And we're actually recognized by the State Department's Education and Cultural Affairs Bureau for being a leader in international education because so many students go abroad at CC. I believe it's almost 80%, and the national average is like a couple percentage points. So it's pretty exciting that there's so much to choose from. We have a lot of opportunities for professional development and research. We have $100,000 available for research funding every year. So definitely look into the venture grant if you're interested in research opportunities. We have a lot of internship opportunities available, which I could talk about later if we have more time. I want to wrap up here. And we do have a lot of great advising support for students as well. So this just kind of gives you an idea of some of the opportunities for students when they graduate, where they go, what kind of fields they're going into, what kind of locations, but there's a lot that students can choose from. So I'm actually going to stop here. I'll talk about the admission process and financial aid at the very end. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Sabrina to talk about her experience. And then I'll give you a nice little backdrop back to Colorado Springs.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that information with us, Megan. And thank you for breaking down the block plan because you're right. I was looking at it like, what's the catch here? But you broke it down. I understand. And it sounds awesome. So Sabrina, I'm going to find out some more from you about what you think about the block plan as a student athlete. So we'll come back to Megan in a moment. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat. And of course, if you have any questions for Sabrina, then now is the time to drop those in the chat. So Sabrina, just tell us just as a student athlete, what your journey was like preparing to go into the NCAA.
Yes, thank you so much. So, yeah, kind of just to talk about my journey as a student athlete, and I guess more unique to me as a swimmer. I actually did have kind of a lot of challenges in high school. I moved schools around a lot, actually. I switched schools twice, I think, during high school, and with that, I switched high school swim teams. And that was definitely really challenging for me. I'm sure a really common thing nowadays among student athletes in general, even in high school, is just burnout. And I was pretty confident that by the end of my sophomore year, I was going to be done swimming and done with the sport because I was really burnt out. And that's kind of when I made my final switch to the high school that I ended up graduating from. And what I did find out from that high school that I went to was a lot about myself and a lot about why I chose the sport that I chose and the environment that I wanted. And really, it was my junior year that I kind of decided, like, hey, like, I could really love this sport again as long as I found the right environment. And that's kind of what encouraged me to continue looking into college and everything, into potentially swimming for longer, go with the recruitment process. I'm sure a lot of the student athletes are beginning to get familiar with that. And yeah, so it wasn't until about my junior year that I was like, I actually do love this sport, and I love it because of the environment, and I love it because of the camaraderie, and not even just the team at that point. Actually, between switching schools, I had gone to a school with about like 60 kids in my graduating class, and then a school with about 1,000 kids in my graduating class. And then the school that I actually ended up at was one that had about 400 to 500 in my graduating class. And so with all of that, I kind of recognized not only what kind of team I wanted, but also what kind of school I wanted. So I had the advantage of getting to learn through trial and error throughout my high school years. And I was very confident that I did not want something that like everyone was up in my business, but I did like that 400 to 500 number. And I wanted a team that was going to be very encouraging of each other, not so much cutthroat that you might see once you get a little bit more competitive, but more of a team where everyone genuinely wants to be on the team, wants to be there, like wants to work hard and has their own personal goals. And it did take some searching to find a team like in a school that worked perfectly for me. But as I've mentioned, the things that I kind of recognized about myself junior year, as you can kind of tell, Colorado College did end up seeming like the perfect fit from the get-go. And throughout my journey, I was always comparing every school to Colorado College. And so, yeah, the things that really drew me to Colorado College was originally the size and then the block plan. And then when I did meet the team, I did find out that like it was a group of people, like I said, who genuinely wanted to be there. They wanted to work hard. They weren't signing a contract. They weren't forced to be there. Like they had decided that they wanted to continue their swimming journey in the sake of my sport, their swimming journey, and then just keep on working hard at it for their own personal goals. And that's been like continually the most giving thing, I guess, at Colorado College and with that team is that at any point, like if we wanted to quit, we could. Like there's no contract, there's no money that's holding us into a sport, but we all genuinely want to be there every single day. And it is a unique group of people that I have found. And I did know what I was looking for in high school. So I did have that advantage, but I think one of the biggest things was that I had to learn that about myself and I had to fall back in love with the sport by falling back in love with the teammates. And so that would be like kind of the biggest journey and challenge that I dealt with was just recovering from burnout and actually finding the best experience that I've had with the team in my life and in my sports career, I guess. So.
I love that. I love that you stuck with your passion. You just found a way to just find, how to reconnect with it. So it seems like you're really good at adapting. So what advice do you have for those that are trying to get settled into the dorms, like that kind of lifestyle?
Yeah, so I'm blessed to have a very proactive mom. She's always been very proactive. And as soon as like I started my college journey, she immediately went onto Facebook and found all these moms groups and college groups. And so I have gotten a lot of my advice from her, but what I've realized it is a great resource for almost anybody. Like you don't have to be a mom to join this moms group, but they tend to like list all the different things that you might need. So I was very blessed to actually be incredibly prepared to go to a different state because I am from Texas, to go to a different state on my own in the middle of a pandemic actually. And have everything that I needed. So I was really grateful for my mom. That's like probably the biggest advice is like use your resources online. Like people have been through what you probably will go through as well, and they can help out. For me, at least, the biggest thing that I tell everyone to bring is a fan, one of those big, giant stand-up fans, because I am from Texas and I am used to AC anywhere I go. And so being in a dorm with no AC was definitely like the biggest thing that had me a little bit shocked at first. So definitely a fan's the biggest thing. And then I guess more on the sports side, another thing that I brought, but a lot of my teammates didn't actually end up bringing to begin with, was my own sports bag with some of my own equipment and like my own beach towels for swimming and that kind of things. Because for us, at least as a D3 school, primarily D3 school, we don't start season until at least a little bit into school. And I wanted to train on my own and do a couple practices, get in the water, go to the gym. And it was so helpful being able to have access to my own personal gear before receiving gear from the college for the season. So as far as the student athlete side, that's probably my biggest recommendation is make sure that you have your gear with you in case you plan on working out or doing anything on your own. I felt like I was at a big advantage with that. And then yes, please use the Facebook mom groups. They are super helpful. I still use them now as a junior. I'll be in an apartment next year and I have consistently like looked through those Facebook mom groups to figure out like what things I might need to bring. So
Awesome. Yeah, I used Facebook too before I went to see who was going to be in my dorm and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool to kind of connect before you got there, get a little head start. So what does a typical day look like for you?
yeah, so as Megan kind of described, like we are on a very unique schedule. The blog plan is seen at almost no other school, pretty much anywhere. It's a very, very unique thing. It is what I was drawn to. And so my schedule is a little bit different than the typical student athlete schedule would be in higher education. But I have actually grown to love it because it has the consistency that I need. And so typically, like on a day in season, I would say, I wake up like I would usually wake up probably 10 minutes before class. Like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If I have weights in the morning, which we do 2 to 3 times a week, I'll wake up probably like 6:45 or so, go to weights at 7:15. Not insanely early. So I was grateful for that too. I'll do my weights, or if I'm waking up right before class, I'll just grab something to eat. And then I'll actually go to class from 9 to 12. Like Megan said, that's pretty much the like standard at Colorado College. Sometimes there is like some sway, like sometimes they start a little later, like the professors, because they also want to sleep in, or sometimes you have an afternoon class, so you'll start a little bit later. But for the most part, it would be from 9 to 12 with a break in the middle. And so I would go to class between that period. In that time, all I'm focused on is class, which is really helpful. I'm not having to think about an essay I have due next class or anything. Like it's all that one class. And then from there, I usually have about 2 to 3 hours. Everyone rushes to lunch, which is another exciting thing about the blog plan is everyone's done at 12. So we all kind of come together for lunch. So I'll usually go to lunch with my team or some of my other friends. And then I do actually have a couple jobs at Colorado College, including being in admissions and working at the QRC, which I know that Megan will talk about a little bit later too. And so sometimes, like after I'm done and I've grabbed some lunch, I'll have a shift. Another great thing about the block plan is that the faculty all know that we're on this kind of schedule. So usually my work schedule will never run into my class schedule, as long as I've given them notice in advance if I have any labs or anything. So yeah, usually I'll go from lunch, maybe go to work for a couple hours. And then my coach is very good about having us consistently do practice every day from about 3 to 5 or 3 to 5:30, something along those lines. She does give us plenty of overlap time in case like we are trying to schedule something. She never wants to have us be missing something because we're running late. And she's always very clear about her expectations. That's something that I've very much appreciated. And so, yeah, the whole team will come together. We'll all do practice, typically right around 5:30 when we're done, the dining hall opens. So we all go to dinner together. And then actually one of the great things about the team bonding and the student athlete experience is that you are like together all the time. And so typically after dinner, a lot of us know, well, we do have a lot of homework and we'll form like a little group that goes to the library together and studies until it's about time to go to bed. And so I know that kind of sounds a little intense of a schedule, like wake up, class, work, swim, homework, sleep. But it is one of those things that I've appreciated the routine because I do know that it's for 5 days during the week. And then like Friday, I can relax. I maybe have a Saturday morning practice or I have a meet, but then it's like the whole weekend, like I'll pretty much relax. So it's more of like a work hard and then kind of relaxed schedule. And I personally love that there's no variation in the schedule. It makes me know exactly what I'm going to do every day, how I need to plan my time, and how I need to schedule things. And so as intense as it might sound, I actually balance it really well. I never feel like I'm lacking on social time or downtime. I usually am actually able to fit in a small nap here and there throughout every day. So as someone who works 2 jobs and does the sport, like it definitely is possible.
And how do you like to enjoy your break? It's 3.5 days or 4.5 days, or how do you like to enjoy that time between classes?
Yeah, so it is 4.5 days. We usually get out at Wednesday around noon. Sometimes a professor will have a essay due that night. So maybe if you procrastinated a little bit, you're gonna have to stay, like work a little extra. But we do get out Wednesday at noon. For the swim season, it's actually a lot longer than most normal seasons because we're technically a winter sport. So most of our block breaks are actually allotted towards swim meets and travel time. And for example, block 5 in the spring, we have that block break dedicated to conference usually. And so like for quite a few of the block breaks, we actually don't really have them to ourselves, which sounds a little sad, but I would never trade it for all the fun that the swim meets are. And we usually go and end up traveling to either Texas or like somewhere in northern Colorado to kind of have a swim meet. And the thing that I've actually really appreciated about that is that we never end up missing any class. Like it is incredibly rare that we have to miss any kind of class, any kind of homework due to a swim meet or a game like kind of compromise or anything like that. Like there's never any scheduling issues, which is amazing, especially considering the fact that we are only in class for 3.5 weeks at a time. So I definitely like have spent a lot of my breaks dedicated to swim meets, but on the breaks that I don't have swim meets, I personally, if it's usually when we're out of season, I personally like to go home because I am really close to my family. And so I love to go home and see them, even if it is for only a couple days. But there have been other times where I've decided that I wanted to go like up to Winter Park in northern Colorado, where my friends went skiing, but I've actually never skied, so I didn't go skiing. But just kind of fun trips like that where you like end up really bonding with like the friends that you've made your freshman year, and then on. And that's been a really cool experience. It's like it makes you feel very grown up and independent to be able to go and do those kinds of trips on your own. And then you really don't have to worry about class at all, which is such a blessing.
Excellent. So final question for now, and then we'll switch over to Megan so she can tell us more on the admission side. So what advice can you give student athletes when it comes to planning and time management skills that they should go ahead and adopt it early to be a successful student athlete?
Yeah. So I like just to preface, like in high school, I was probably the biggest procrastinator. So like if that is you and you're watching this right now, like I completely get it. It's okay. I would probably stay up way later than I should. And then I would just, be rushing things and my swim practices weren't as good. Probably the primary reason I experienced burnout so quickly in high school. And it did actually take me a few years, even like now into college, to kind of realize the best way to schedule my time. And that could be unique to me, but my personal advice and what has actually been my savior these past couple years has been using my online calendar, just on my MacBook or on my phone or anything like that. Like being able to, anytime I have something that I know I need to be at, I know I need to have planned, I throw it in the calendar. And it was a habit that I had to get into, but since I have gotten into it, I have never missed a meeting and I have never been late to a work shift. I have never missed a class or anything. Like I'm always on time. It's just a matter of making sure that once I schedule something, I immediately put it into the calendar. So that would definitely be my biggest advice. If you can figure that out in high school, I think you are set. Like, because it took me getting into college to figure it out and working jobs and everything. And when I started double booking myself, that was when I was like, I have to do something to get this together. So yes, if you can start that habit early, start writing things down on your calendar, pretty much know where you're going to be at a certain point of the day. And whether that's even free time, sometimes I'll write like a nap into my schedule. So like whether it's that as well, I think that's super important. And then as far as just like other good habits to get into, it is just making sure that like you give yourself a mental break between class and homework time. I think that sometimes a lot of students tend to like, especially on the block plan at the beginning, they'll just kind of finish class, do their homework right away while it's all fresh. And maybe that works for some people, but for me, I need that mental break. 3 hours of class is a lot. And it actually gives me a lot of time if I do take a break and if I do practice in between to digest that information, potentially come up with any questions I had, and then maybe tackle the homework or tackle whatever reading I have to do that night. And so the mental break is huge. If you are like a student athlete currently who is like struggling with like trying to schedule things, like even just a 30-minute nap can be a game changer. It is important to give yourself that mental break in order to actually succeed at whatever work you're doing, whether it be sports or whether it be academics or whether it be actual work. So
I love that. That is excellent advice. Thank you for sharing with us. So, Megan, I am bringing you back on to tell us some more on admissions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And thank you, Sabrina. I'm getting such good life advice from you right now. Like, I'm like, oh
Right?
my gosh, I am scheduling a nap, and how is she so wise and sage on so many levels? But yeah, I think that was all really fantastic, fantastic advice. So I think now what we'll do with our remaining time here before we turn it over for questions from all of you is talk a little bit about the admission process at liberal arts colleges and CC. There's a lot of overlap. And so I think what's nice to know about the liberal arts application process is that it is holistic, which is kind of been a buzz term, but it basically means that we're looking at a lot of different things. So some of the major, huge universities, when they have over 150,000 applications, they have to get really formulaic, understandably, right? Very numerical. There's minimums, there's cutoffs, there's scores. For liberal arts and sciences, for many of us, even the selective ones like CC, we're looking at a lot of different things, and we don't employ any sort of numerical cutoffs or equations. We really want to try to get to know you from several different facets, and those are all on the screen right now. So the application, we do accept the common application, the QuestBridge application, and the coalition application. So those are the main platforms. So there's a lot of overlap with a lot of the United States schools that you may be looking at. And when we think about your application, the academic piece really does have the primary emphasis. So you think about all these sort of puzzles, the puzzle pieces that come together, that's really like the biggest puzzle piece. So the academic piece, meaning that we're looking at your high school transcript. And the high school transcript gives us the information about the classes you've taken and the grades you've earned in those classes. So when we're looking at your transcript, I think it's really good to know that we'll never be comparing you to students that, from different schools with different curricula, different grades, policies, and so forth. Put blinders on to the rest of the world. We really look at what are the classes that are available for you to take at your high school, and how rigorous are they? Because some schools have different policies surrounding advanced coursework, what kind of advanced coursework is available, limitations around when you take advanced coursework. So we learn all of that through the high school profile. So that's something that each high school will provide with your application. And many of us, including myself, travel to schools in Canada, to schools all over the world. So we get to know your schools on the ground as well. So when we're looking at your high school transcript in all that context, we hope that you're taking advantage of some of the more rigorous courses as available for you to take. We don't expect you to be taking every class at the most rigorous level, but taking advantage of some of that challenge and performing well with that challenge gives us an idea of your ability to succeed on something as rigorous as the block plan, because you are taking 4 credit hours in 3.5 weeks. So that is intense. That is a lot. I think sometimes when people hear about the 1 class at a time system, they're like, oh, this is great. Like, I just take 1 class. And you heard from Sabrina, like, it is actually pretty, there's a lot of work that you're going to be doing every day, but you get to focus it on 1 subject. So that's really the difference. It's still going to be a lot of preparation each day for that class. So that's why we want to see your ability to really push yourself within the challenge that's available for you to take in your high school, and your ability to perform well within that challenge. In terms of writing, we do have a Colorado College supplement, and the supplemental essays are when schools offer essays specific to their college. So they would like to know, they'll ask a question, kind of simple and straightforward, most typically, why are you applying to our college? The reason why a lot of schools offer supplemental essays is because we want to try to get a sense of whether the student is a good fit for the college and the college is a good fit for the student. Or as our VP for enrollment says, like the molding and shaping of the class. So it can be a little confusing sometimes because a lot of schools don't offer supplemental essays. So I know that if you get to a school that is offering a supplemental essay, The tip here is to take the supplemental essay seriously and to be like, oh, what is this? There's another essay. Like, I understand it's like so much writing and so much preparation, but if a school's offering it, they're looking at it carefully. And so it's a great opportunity to really show some reflection, some specific details that are only available at that school, and not copy and pasting from another school supplemental essay, which unfortunately we see every year. Because if you're doing that, if you are copying and pasting from another school supplemental essay, and or if you write like a 2-sentence answer and it's really like, oh, block plan seems cool and I like to ski, period, that's all. Then we're kind of like, well, how serious is the student about CC, right? So I think putting some intentionality behind the supplemental essay and putting some real thought into it is a really successful start. It's only 250 words, so that's the good news. We keep making it shorter and shorter and shorter. So hopefully in getting to know about us, the fact that you've been here, for example, means that you've connected with us, you've gotten to know about us from an actual student, Sabrina. So I think you'll be able to leverage that in a supplemental essay really nicely. In terms of activities and leadership, we don't expect students to be like a president of every club, or, leadership can be really broadly defined, right? So leadership can mean like taking care of family members, working a part-time job, and activities. We don't have like a magic list of activities either. It's really just to try to get to know you with that limited time you have outside of all that hard work in school. How do you spend your time? And it's just a means for us to get to know you. Because I think sometimes people feel like I need to get like this club here. I need to kind of make something up here. And it's truly just to get to know what your interests are and how you spend that time. In terms of letters of recommendation, we do ask for academic letters of recommendation too, and from academic solids. So the academic solids are English, math, science, history, and foreign language. And then a counselor evaluation, if you have a college counselor, kind of gives us that more 360 view of who you are. So kind of give you a more about like the macro view of who you are as a person. If you have a teacher that can do that in place of a counselor, some students don't have a counselor, that's fine. We just ask that you do provide that as well, so we can get to know you from that perspective as well. And then finally, we offer informational interviews. So colleges will offer either evaluative or informational interviews. Evaluative interviews means that like the interviewer will take notes and add that to your file as a means to get to know you more. Informational is just that. It's just an exchange of information. It's just an opportunity for you to learn more about the school and for us to learn more about you. So it's really, I guess you can think about it as a two-way interview. You can interview your interviewer and find out all the questions that you can't really find on the website that you're really specific to your own interests. All right, so a little bit about the application process in terms of the deadlines. So we're kind of an interesting animal because we offer so many deadlines. So we offer early decision, early action, a second round of early decision, and regular action. So early decision is binding and early action is not binding. Early decision is a great fit for you if you have this one school that you're just head over heels over. You can't imagine going anywhere else. It's like your number one dream school. The perks, if you will, about applying early decision is that for some schools, when they know that if you're admitted, you are coming, the admit rate is higher for students that apply in that round because they know you're coming. So they're like, oh, great, the student is fantastic. We don't have to guess about whether or not they're going to come. They are coming. So the admit rate can be higher for some schools, like it is at CC if you apply under their early decision plan. So if you apply early in decision, you do sign this contract with the school, just saying that you understand that. So we want to make sure there's no misunderstanding around early decision. And you just essentially say that if you're admitted, you will withdraw your applications to other schools because you're going to come here. So that's it. It's very straightforward, just a couple sentences, but we do want to make sure you understand that. We offer 2 rounds of early decision. namely because November comes around before we know it, right? It's sneaky. I don't know. I can't even believe that like it's August. I'm still processing that. And same thing for the fall. It just goes faster and faster and faster. So the only difference with the second round is the timing. The other thing that could happen sometimes is you could apply to another school early decision. Sadly, if you're denied, then you could apply under the second early decision round at another institution. So all is not lost. We could be your next dream school. So that is why our admit rate percentages are actually the same, whether you apply in November or whether you apply in January. It's just the difference in timing. Finally, we have regular action. Regular action is interesting because with early action, you apply the same time as the early decision round 1 deadline, November 1st, but you don't have to commit to the school until May 1st, which is the national deposit deadline in the United States. With regular action, because most of our applicants are admitted through the earlier rounds, that's why the admit rate percentage goes down so low, because we keep sharing this out for one. So I think that's perpetuating more and more people like, well, I think I want to do the earlier rounds here. Those are better percentages. But also because more and more students that are really compelling and competitive are prioritizing us in the early stages. So we do save financial aid, we do save spots for regular action. It's just that more and more students are prioritizing us, and so we're able to admit more students in the earlier rounds, whether that's binding or non-binding. Ooh, one quick thing I should mention here before I jump to the last slide. We do have a test optional policy. So I think I forgot to mention that in the last slide. That's why you see 50% of those students that applied submitted testing and 50% did not. It's kind of an interesting split. At CC, we actually went test optional before COVID. So we did some internal research and found out that the SAT or the ACT were not actually as accurate predictors of a student's success in the classroom as the transcript was, their 4 years in high school. So a lot of faculty support, a lot of research, and then so we went test optional, permanent policy. And so I think for some folks, it's understandably a little bit confusing because some schools are doing like a temporary COVID version. Some folks feel like they need to like, well, is it really test optional? Do I get penalized if I don't submit my scores? But it really just means that if you feel like the scores are an accurate representation of your potential as a student, then you can submit the scores. If you do not think that they are an accurate representation of your potential as a student, you do not have to. I think the final piece about that it can be helpful is looking at a school's median test score range, because if your potential to succeed, if you're like, all right, I'm feeling really good about these scores, and then you look at their median test score range, you're like, oh, geez, maybe I'm not quite within that range. It could be helpful to get that kind of barometer check based on that score range of each school that you're looking at. All right, final slide here, financial aid, really important to talk about because a lot of US schools are so expensive, right? So with being an athlete, if you are at Colorado College, it's interesting because we have Division III and we have Division I. And so Division I is, of course, athletic scholarships that are available through that division. We have Division I teams in men's ice hockey and women's soccer. If you are if you're an athlete that is not competing on men's soccer or women's soccer, men's ice hockey in Division I level, we're still able to meet your financial need based on your financial aid application. So that's really important and exciting to know, is that at CC, we're one of 66 schools in the country to meet full demonstrated need based on the FAFSA and the CSS profile. So if you are a US citizen and a Canadian citizen, then you would submit the FAFSA. That's a US federal form. If you are strictly Canadian, you would not apply with the FAFSA, you would just use the CSS profile. So there's a lot, I know. I remember going through this process and being like, oh my gosh, so many forms. But we actually have a fantastic financial aid team, and you can go on, if you just Google financial aid Colorado College, you can actually sign up right on the website for a one-on-one appointment. International, domestic students, everyone knows how to work with you and one-on-one to make sure you get all those answers to those questions. We also have a net price calculator, which is really helpful because it gives you an estimate for what your financial aid package can look like. Again, this is actually a really great resource if you are a dual citizen with the United States. If you are not, it can be a little bit wonkier trying to make all of the sort of like switches with calculations. But either way, definitely make a meeting with financial aid because they can help and be a great resource for you. Finally, in terms of merit scholarships, we do have some that are based to Colorado Foundation. So I can skip over that because I don't think anybody from Colorado is on this call, but if you are, get in touch with me and I can loop you back in with that info. There are scholarships that are available when you apply to CC that you don't even have to apply for. So the leadership, trustee, and presidential scholarships are merit scholarships for international and domestic students. About 5 to 10% of our incoming class is awarded one of these scholarships, the amount of $5,000 to $10,000 per year of study at CC. And that's just when you submit your application. So you don't actually have to do anything about that. The Barnes Scholarship is a science scholarship, and that's also only eligible for US citizens. So if you're a dual citizen, that is something that you can look into in greater detail. And this is really what's great to know, again, if you're a Division III athlete, you're thinking about financial aid without the NCAA, like what's that going to look like? This is really good news. Your package is primarily grants. So CC students actually graduate with less debt than the national average. So very good news there. And then this is my last slide. So for more information about CC, or this block plan sounded interesting, but I think I need to dive in a little bit more. We have a build your own block plan, dynamic interactive exercise, so you can customize it based on your own interests. You can complete a virtual survey, let us know how we're doing, and then you can start a preliminary application, which is really easy because it's just like your name, your email, your school, and then you start a portal with CEC, and then we can have two-way communication, send you recommendations and tips, and track your application materials. That was a tongue twister. If you do apply, tell you what's missing. It's a great resource. All right. Thank you so much. That's actually the end of our presentation. My email is the email under international inquiries right there, mrhodes@coloradocollege.edu. And then the general email, admission@coloradocollege.edu, is a great one. If for any reason I'm traveling or on vacation and you have some really quick questions you want to get answered, same with financial aid and so forth. So thanks, y'all. Hope you all had a good, thanks for sticking with us, and hope that was helpful.
Thank you so much, Megan. So before you and Sabrina get out of here, we have one more question that we would like to ask you. Either one of you can go first, but what do you love most about Colorado College? If you can choose more than one. But what do you love the most?
Yeah, I can go ahead and go as like the student. There's a couple things, so I probably won't just say one. But the big thing is kind of the energy that I guess Colorado College brings in, whether it be, I don't really know what draws it in, whether it be because of the vlog plan or just because of the location or what it is, but everyone at Colorado College is just incredibly passionate about something. And that is just like such an amazing energy to be a part of, to live in, to work in. Like anywhere I go, anyone I talk to, they're just so passionate about whether it be like a sport that they're doing or like an outdoor activity that they're doing, or even like a class that they're in. I have so many people that I know that I can just bring up a topic that I know they're interested in. They could go on for hours and hours and hours. And I mean, it's just an incredible thing to find a group of so many people that have such diverse passions about everything. And that's kind of what's made me stay passionate about my major and my like athletics and working is just being able to bounce off of other people's passions and watch how hardworking and how excited that they get when they're talking about what it is that they truly enjoy. And so I guess that's the biggest thing. I guess like a secondary thing is, like I said, the size of the school is just huge to me. I have never like really been in a situation where I am in a class of like less than 15 potentially, or I know the average class is 16, but as you get higher up in your major, one of the classes I had was like 6 or 7 of us. And it's just an incredible opportunity to like get to know your peers that are studying the same things as you, as well as getting to know the professors so well. And then I guess beyond an academic level, socially, I love it because I do know a lot of people at the college and a lot of people in my grade. But again, it's like I'm still meeting people every day. It's like the difference between like I don't really feel like I'm just some number in a giant school or some number in like a big old lecture hall. Like I genuinely feel like I am a part of a community, and I do get to know my peers, and I do get to know friends. And I can walk into a dining hall and I will always find someone who I can sit with, and I will always find someone that I can start up a conversation with, but I will also always be able to find someone that I don't know and can get to know, and get to learn what they're passionate about. So those are probably my 2 top favorite things about Colorado College in my experience so far.
Thank you, Sabrina. What about you, Megan?
Oh man, Sabrina, that was so good. I can't top that. Oh my gosh, but that's from our real live students. So that's as it should be. I guess really quickly and kind of similarly is that like there's no place else like us really. And I think that's a really neat dynamic that very much underscores what Sabrina was saying in terms of the energy here. I think our former president, another great quote from her that I really like is that like no one else, like by nature, like if you come to CC, you're an open-minded, adventurous learner because you're open-minded to the block plan and you're adventurous to come out to Colorado. And I think that really attracts a really fantastic community. Like Sabrina was saying, everyone's passionate about something and people are just saying yes to like trying new things and doing new things. And I think that really translates to a really cool community. So I think that would be what I would say is that's my favorite part for why I'm here and why I'm planning to keep on being here.
Awesome.
I got a house. I'm stuck now.
Oh yeah. That will make you stay. Sabrina and Megan, thank you so much for coming and joining and sharing CC Colorado College with us today. It truly has been a pleasure. So thank you so much. Thank you to the viewers. Thank you those that came into the Zoom room. Thank you for those that are watching via live stream. We appreciate you coming out and hanging with us and seeing who we have on next. So we'll see you next time on the College Tracker. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.